Very good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good afternoon.
In the last episode of this webinar, we had gone through the basic skeletal structure of the new income tax bill. On today's episode, we would be delving deep into the meaning of the word income and the scope of total income. So,
Just
my
give me
first
one.
question.
Just give me one moment.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Uh, so, the new income tax bill, section 2, subsection 45. Sir,
49, I
it
guess.
gives a inclusive 240,
49, 49.
249. Uh, it gives an inclusive definition of the word income, sir. So
Right.
my first question would be, sir, as to why, like, the definition of income is that of an inclusive in nature.
Okay. Okay. Before I answer your question, I think one thing I would like to clarify at the outset, then since the objective is to discuss the new income tax bill 2025, so I must tell you as to whether there is any significant difference in how the income is defined in the new income tax bill 2020 vis-a-vis how it was defined in income tax 1961. The word income was defined in section 2 subsection 24 of the income tax act 1961, and the corresponding provision is there in section 2 subsection 49. Now the unfortunate part of the definition as it is there in the new income tax bill 2029, despite the claim of the government that they want to simplify the language of the act so that it becomes more easy for the common man to understand, and there would be avoidance of the cross reference of the sections. If you go through the definition part of it, we would see and find that the definition of income remains as complex as it used to be, and it has everything what was there in the old income tax act. The only difference, if I may say so, is that the cross-referencing part of it, there is a change in the renumbering. So both the section refers to the same list of income types. There is no change in what counts as an income. Only the naming or the numbering or the location of the clauses shifts. The new draft law does not recast or streamline the substantive definition. So unfortunately, the word income remain as complex as it used to be. And one of the aspects of the complexity of the definition of income is that it lists down a number of items. As you correctly stated, that it is an inclusive definition. So inclusive definition means that it does not mean that what is stated as income is the has to be construed as income. The word income is of elastic import, and it has to be construed in the widest possible terms. The definition of income or the inclusive part of it has kept increasing from time to time. Classically, the word income connotes something which is not a capital receipt. So even though the Income Tax Act or even the Constitution does not define the word income categorically as to what can be construed as an income, the inclusive part of it also does not categorically defines what can be construed as an income. It only lists down certain receipts as income. But if in a I mean, as the the judiciary has over a period of time the jurisprudence of the terminology of the income. So, if I may say so, it can be defined in a negative manner to say that what is not a capital receipt is an income. And as we can see, I mean, if you can scroll down the definition and just enlarge it, and it is not visible properly.
Is it visible now, sir?
It is better now.
I'll enlarge it further.
No, enlarge it in such a manner that both the, I mean, bill and act we can see at the same time. Yes. So as we can see that it includes profit and gains, the new as well as the old act, dividend, voluntary contribution received by a trust, then the value of perquisite. To further go down, change the page. Go to the next page. Yeah, keep scrolling. So as we can see that the inclusive part of his has number of items. If you can just stop here, you see any winnings from lotteries, crossword puzzles, races, including horse races, card games, and other games, and all that. This particular clause was inserted in 1972. You see, the concept of income has evolved over a period of time, and the list keeps growing, particularly for two reasons. One is that there are the society, they always find a new ingenious way of converting black money into white. And whatever is exempt at a particular point of time, in order to claim a certain income, which is a black income or a cash income, black income not necessarily means the dirty income, something on which one does not want to pay tax. So it is considered as a exempt income. And one such source was winning from lotteries or crossword puzzles or races or card games and gambling and betting and all that to convert black money into white, since the casual or non-recurring receipts were not considered as income. So they were deemed to be income in 1972. Just you go to the next part of it. Keep scrolling. Yes. Okay, now you can close this. Yes.
So my second question would be, so what is the, like, with respect to the constitutional power, with respect to the levy of the income tax, sir, if you could please guide us with respect to the constitutional framework for the levy of the income tax.
So constitutionally, the power to tax income is by virtue of entry 82 of list 1 of schedule 7. So it is there in the union list, and it says taxes on income other than agricultural income. Now the word income is unfortunately not defined even in the constitution. All that it says as the taxes of income other than agricultural income. Agricultural income is defined in Article 366 1 of the Constitution of India, which says that agricultural income is defined for the purposes of the enactment relating to Indian Income Tax Act. So the Constitution also does not define agricultural income. It is left to the wisdom of the legislature by virtue of the income tax enactment to define agricultural income, which is defined in the Income Tax Act 1961 and is also defined in the Income Tax Bill 2025.
So can a fictional, notional, or a contingent income be taxed as well?
You see the income, if we see section 5, there must be an accrual or receipt of the income. Without there being an accrual of income in a particular financial year, because you see the income is taxed from year to year. So for a financial year, which will be now called as a tax year in the new income tax bill, the income is taxed. So either it must accrue or arise or be received in a particular year. That is one part of it. So a fictional income or a notional income or income which has not been received or a contingent income. For example, suppose you are entitled to receive an income if some event happens in the future. For example, let us take an example that one will get a prize if he succeeds in a particular activity, and he is promised by the government that suppose if a athlete wins a gold medal in the Olympics, then he will receive so and so amount of money. Now it is a contingent income. So when the declaration is made, the income has not accrued to that athlete. But if he wins the gold medal, then irrespective of the fact that the money has been received or not, if it is a promise by the government of India, then the income will accrue to that person, and that may be taxed in the year in which it accrues. But at the same time, I must caution that from time to time there are various activities which have been deemed to be income by the Act, and that deemed income, even if it is notional income, will be taxed.
Sir, if you could please tell us as to if negative income can also be taxed.
Negative income is also certainly an income, because you see, if the income includes, the word income includes the loss. So if suppose there is I am running in, I'm having say 3 different ventures, and I make profit in 2 ventures, but at the same time incur loss in one of the venture, then the loss of the one of the venture will be set off against the positive income. So strictly speaking, the, I mean, the government does not charge income tax on a negative income, but because it has to be treated as an income, so it is beneficial to the SEC to treat it as income. If suppose the negative income is not treated as income, then the SEC will not be in a position to set it off against a positive income.
My next question would be, suppose, say if there's a person, he's earning his income through illegal means, or to put it another way, the income of is an illegal income, whether that can be taxed as well for the purposes of the Income Tax Act as well as the Income Tax Bill.
You see, the Honorable Supreme Court has held from time to time, and even there are circulars to that effect, that income does not necessarily mean that it has to be earned through the legitimate means. Even an illegal income is an income, and it will be assessed depending on the category or the nature of income, whether it is a income from, say, house property, or salary, or profit and gains of the business. So depending on the head under which it has to be, it will accrue, it will be computed and taxed accordingly. So as far as the Income Tax Act is concerned, it does not make any distinction between legitimate or illegitimate income, even though it is a different matter altogether that one may be prosecuted under the respective law for the activity which is not legal.
So,
For
then if
example, the Income Tax Act itself says that the income from betting and gambling will be taxed, even though the betting and gambling is not legal in the context of the Indian laws.
suppose, so like I'll give you a scenario. Suppose I murder someone in lieu of, say, some money. Now I receive that money after I have done murdered someone. So in this case, sir, I mean, this is also not. I mean, such a case is not there even in the. I mean, it has not been given as example as to whether income will be the income earned from this illegal activity, will it be taxed or not? Because gambling, yes, we know that the provision is there, it will be taxed. But for some serious crimes,
Yeah, even whatever may be the nature of crime, it will be taxed, though it is a different matter altogether that it may be subject matter of investigation in the respective laws, but it will certainly be taxed in the Income Tax Act if it comes to the knowledge of the income tax authorities.
and in such a scenario, will the provisions of the PMLA will also be attracted? Suppose I murder someone and I receive a money, because that becomes a proceeds of crime for me. So can uh, PMLA be also be attracted in such a case?
Yes, certainly. I mean, PMLA Act will, you see, PMLA Act is a different discussion altogether, but whatever is a scheduled offense, and if it is a income through that source, then obviously it will be uh, prosecuted under the PMLA Act as well, apart from being taxed under the Income Tax Act.
So my next question would be: is the nomenclature of accounting important to determine whether a receipt is an income or not?
No, the nomenclature is not important, even though by virtue, as I've said, that the nomenclature for the purpose of bookkeeping, one categorizes or cat, treats something as a capital receipt or as a income from a particular source. But suppose somebody credits something as a income from house property, but he is in the business of letting out. So if he's in the business of letting out and his only source of income is the rental income, then the income tax authority may very well treat it as an income from business instead of treating it as an income from house property. So nomenclature is not important, and something which is, say, credited as a capital receipt, but if it is deemed as an income under the Income Tax Act, then it might be taxed as a income because it is deemed as an income. For example, uh, conversion of stock in trade into a capital asset. Till 2028, conversion of stock in trade into capital asset was not an income. The Honorable Supreme Court held that the withdrawal of the stock for the personal benefit of the SAC does not represent any business transaction, as no one can derive income from himself. It is possible that that particular stock in trade which has been withdrawn for the personal benefit may be sold as in future, but it cannot be taxed as an income in the hand of the person who has converted it from stock in trade into capital receipt. But in 2028, an amendment was made in the Income Tax Act, and the judgment of effect of the judgment was nullified by introduction of clause 6A in section 28, whereby it was stated that the fair market value of the stock in trade as on the date in which it is converted will be treated as a profit and gains of the business, and it will be taxed accordingly. So we have to always keep in mind that we cannot just rely upon the not only the nomenclature, but you have to constantly keep ourselves up with the changes in the law. So what was a capital receipt yesterday or what was not a income yesterday may be brought within the purview of the inclusive part of the definition and may be taxed as an income. So we have to be very careful about it. For example, earlier gift, after the removal of the gift tax, gift was not an income. But subsequently, Section 56 was amended, and anything more than 50,000, if received from a non-relative, then it was deemed to be an income.
I would like to ask you one more question, sir. So the Income Tax Act 1961 has gone amendments after amendments every time the government used to lose in the Supreme Court. Sir, they are definitely bringing a new bill. They have already brought a new bill. Whenever it comes into force, so do you think that this will also meet the same fate with respect to the amendments as Income Tax Act 1961 is concerned? Given the habit of the legislature to amend the law after they lose a legal battle in the court.
You see, I'm more worried about that. You see, certainly there will be changes. I mean, the way, I mean, despite promises by every finance minister that there should not be any retrospective amendment and all that. So, I mean, I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that the new income tax bill will also be amended with the how the judiciary decides a particular transaction. But I'm more worried about the retrospective amendment, that what will happen. I mean, the Income Tax Act will be abolished, and obviously there will be a saving clause. But will that saving clause save the retrospective amendment also? Because it might so happen that a battle being fought in the corridors of the High Courts or Supreme Court may be decided 20 years or 10 years down the line, because it takes in the Indian judicial system for a final outcome of any dispute. So by the time it is decided, we'll find that the battle has been decided in favor of the SAC, and the government may be amending the Income Tax Act 1961 with retrospective effect.
So, but having been said that, the current government in hand, they have been very, I mean, they have restrained themselves from retrospectively amending the income tax as far as the Income Tax Act is concerned. With respect to the GST Act, we recently had how the Section 17(5) was amended retrospectively. But sir, I mean, I just wanted to know your take on this, because internationally speaking, sir, even we have seen what the experience with Vodafone was. In the end of the day, it is still pending arbitration, so on and so forth. Sir, like seeing the Vodafone case in hand, sir, are you hopeful that perhaps the government may not continue the activity of retrospectively amending the laws?
You see, I'm not very hopeful about that, because what happens usually is that once there is a big amount of dispute involved, and it is a suppose industry issue or a big issue, then they forcefully collect it. The tax is collected on the threat of arrest and all that. And once the income accrues to the government, or it goes to the pockets of the government, or I mean, they account for it, then come what may, whichever may be the government in the power, they don't want to give it back. And that is the main genesis of this retrospective amendments from time to time. So I believe that it will continue to happen in the future as well.
Thank you, sir.
So shall we conclude today?
Yes, so there are no questions in the comment box either.
Okay, then we'll continue with the discussion in the coming weeks. So we'll try to do it every Saturday at around 3 p.m. And you please give your email ID in the chat box so that if anybody has any query, then they may send it to you. They may even raise the query because we upload it in the YouTube. So you may give your query in the YouTube, I mean the comment section also. So we'll try to address that. And you may even put your question on the LinkedIn, my LinkedIn page. Though please keep a track over the YouTube comments and my LinkedIn page so that if some query is raised over there, so we'll try to answer that.
Okay, sir.
Okay, then thank you.
Thank
Have
you,
a
sir.
good weekend. Bye.